talking about my recent prediction. Donald Trump's month of chaos. Chaos and danger ahead. So this is just a quick update where I'm revisiting prediction that I made about Donald Trump at the beginning of the Pisces cycle. When the Sun and Moon came together in Pisces, I made a prediction about many things, but most notably for our record today, I was speaking about how Trump was going to have a chaotic month. And I particularly noted that as we get into early April, there could be some very explosive, chaotic times that include perhaps war and, you know, firings and all kinds of stuff. And here we are today as I record this on April 11th, sending, you know, tweets that are taunting, you know, Russia and launching missiles into Syria, and his personal attorney was just raided by the FBI. Boy, that's a huge thing, man. If Michael Cohen flips, it's hard to imagine how much more freaked out Trump is. And I'm saying this on April 11th. I would not be surprised one bit if by April 15th Trump has done something very explosive, like firing Rosenstein or trying to move to get Mueller fired. Because he's acting like an extremely guilty person. Innocent people don't act like this. And he's gone ballistic because they have subpoenaed, well, they didn't subpoena, they actually raided his attorney. And they obviously had enough evidence that a crime could be proven in order to ask for a search warrant, have a search warrant approved, and then go find the evidence. And no matter what the big baby wants to say, witch hunt, whatever, this is not how the system works. You cannot go execute a search warrant and have it approved by a federal judge if it's not probably pretty serious, and particularly the standards are higher for an attorney because you're going to vitiate attorney-client privilege, and even higher for it being the president. So there must be some extremely damaging stuff that they pretty much already know that they're going to find. See, because when they have to get a warrant like this, they have to go to a federal judge to say, here's what we're pretty sure has happened, and here's the high likelihood that when we find this stuff, it's going to lead to a prosecution. It's that kind of thing that allows a judge, that will have a judge say, okay, yeah, I think you're right, go get a warrant. Not subpoena, go get a warrant and go get the stuff. Because there's also the risk that if they subpoena the person, they'll destroy evidence. Again, this is why they do it that way. Rather than just subpoena him, they said, we want to get a warrant because we're pretty sure there's evidence of a crime, and if we just let him know, he'll destroy evidence. So we want a search warrant to go raid and grab it. Basically the sort of, you know, stereotypical, you know, sort of kick the door down. That's not actually what they do, but they show up and say, open the door, let us in. You need pretty conclusive proof that a crime maybe almost certainly has been committed, or that there's a high probability that the perp is guilty in order to even get something like that, even for a regular citizen, not to mention an attorney, not to mention the attorney for the president. So is any wonder why Trump is going off his nut right now? Because if anybody knows Trump's dirt, knows where the bodies are buried, probably buried some himself, it's Michael Cohen. Oh boy. If you assume for a second that Trump is guilty, I know it's like, oh my God, how do we know? Innocent until proven guilty. Okay. But let's assume for a second that he is guilty and that he knows that they're going to find something extremely damaging. You would have to fire someone, or you would have to do something, because the alternative is you know you're going to be found guilty, particularly if they just raided the person who you know they're either going to find the evidence or they're going to flip him. The guy's not going to go to jail to save Trump's skin. And he can't even pardon him because it's a New York prosecution. So when you look at the media, they're all like, why would he be doing this? Why doesn't he just relax and let it all play out? His advisors tell him to just relax and let it play out. His advisors are acting like he's innocent. That's what you would tell someone who's innocent. That's not what you would tell someone who's guilty. He's acting guilty. And what's he got to lose? If you're guilty, what do you got to lose? You might as well try. That's why he's trying to smear the investigation itself. That's the card he has to play, because he knows where it's heading. And he's probably known it for a while. So this is where we're at. On the verge of missiles are coming, missiles are flying, they're coming. He already said it. Not to mention what else could happen. God help us, man. This is a desperate man backed into a corner. I'm sorry if you're a Trump fan, but he's not very bright because he's created a lot of the mess himself. He could have probably just shut up and maybe nothing could have happened, because you still have to prove these things, but most of it is him stepping in it. The whole reason there's even an investigation is because he fired James Comey. I don't want to get into all that, but anyway, I predicted back when I did the Pisces forecast about a month ago that late March, early April was going to be difficult. And I said, if you think it's been chaotic the last month, you just wait. We're about to really hit some chaos. And we have. Because this happened in Trump's 8th house. And that's the principle here. Our lives are really being lived relative to these lunar cycles, these sun-moon cycles. We had the new moon in Pisces, which was in Trump's 8th house because he's Leo. And now it's starting to culminate. The moon is getting darker and darker, and it's about to start the Aries cycle. So that Pisces cycle, that 8th house cycle, is finishing for him in the next few days. So he's going to finish it up. So these cycles are really what's happening in our life. This is really how your life is unfolding, is based on these cycles. So anyway, I have the excerpt from the forecast that I made, and I'll play that for you now. There's reports of another affair. Of course, his daughter Ivanka, his precious Ivanka, has gotten enormous amount of negative scrutiny. There's reports where he's trying to get her out of the government. His, the Trump whisperer, his sweet little Hope Hicks, has resigned after testifying before the grand jury panel. I mean, all the women in his life, it all just blew up. There was also the scandal with his Rob Porter, because of wife abuse, brought out all of the issues of Trump and his problems with women. After the eclipse over his Venus-Saturn, and then the 7th house transit, the 7th house solar eclipse, which again is his relationships. I made this clear prediction around the end of January. You can go back and watch the video. So he's very much nailed into these cycles, and now it's going to be an 8th house cycle for Trump starting on March 17th. 8th house has to do with enormous chaos. I'm just going to say, if you think it's been chaotic the last couple of weeks, hold on to your hat. Yes. 8th house has to do with destruction, transformation, war, sudden shocking things, which could mean sudden shocking revelations in the Mueller investigation. He could fire more people. Last year, it was in early April, is when Trump launched the attacks in Syria, of course, after this supposed chemical weapons. This is when he bombed Syria, and also when he dropped that MOAB, that mother of all bombs ordinance. That happened when we had the 8th house cycle last year. So the only time Trump has overtly used the military happened at the same time last year. Again, because 8th house, this is an 8th house transit from his ascendant. I said this in a recent video. You want to know how I use astrology and how I think you should use it? Is follow these solar lunar cycles all the time. This is how I do it. This is why I have a member site and been doing forecasts consistently for more than a decade. Because this really shows what's coming into our life each month and every couple weeks. So it's extremely dangerous right now with all these planets going through Trump's 8th house, particularly his 8th house cycle, and all the potential for chaos now. He's talked a lot about firing a lot of other people and basically floated a lot of ideas lately that he's really getting used to being president now and he doesn't need all of these handlers managing him and sort of containing him. And of course, that's basically what's been happening. The McMaster and the Kelly and the people have been kind of managing him so he doesn't fly off and do crazy stuff. And he's basically saying, okay, I don't need that anymore. I got this. Now I know what I'm doing. And so let's see what happens with the president and the potential for chaos in the next month. And so the other thing is what makes it even more tricky and dangerous is Mars from Sagittarius will be aspecting the sun as it goes through Pisces. And of course also Mercury, Venus. So Mars in Sagittarius is also aspecting those planets in Pisces, making for even more of a potentially combustible situation. So there's a lot of potential danger in the world